Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me and welcome to our fairy tale series. Today, we're going to read the story of little Cinderella. Ready? Here we go. Oh, and this is a fairy tale, right? So, what makes a story a fairy tale, like you're going to notice, almost always, the story begins with once upon a time and it ends with they lived happily ever after. We have characters who are good and we have characters that are bad. We have a problem that is really bad in the beginning, and then somehow in the end it turns into something really good. And the problems disappear, and the sad person turns out to be the happiest. And a lot of times we have magic in that story. We could have fairies or witches or fairy godmother. Ready? Here we go. Once upon a time, a lovely young girl named Cinderella lived in a grand mansion with her stepmother and two stepsisters. The stepsisters were jealous of Cinderella, for she was beautiful and graceful, while their mean spirits made them almost ugly. Cinderella's stepmother and stepsisters treated her unfairly. While they wore fancy dresses, slept in comfy feather beds, and spent the day eating sweets and prancing before the mirror, poor Cinderella had to wear rags, sleep on a hard mattress in a drafty tower, and spend her days cleaning the mansion, washing clothes, and scrubbing floors. Even so, Cinderella remained gentle and good hearted. Her sweet spirit made her more beautiful every day. One morning, an invitation arrived. That night, there was to be a ball at the king's palace. What shall I wear? Asked one sister, looking at the gowns in her closet. What shall I do with my hair? Asked the other. I'll fix your hair, offered Cinderella. Be glad you're not going to the ball, said her sister meanly. Everyone there would only laugh at you. Cinderella blinked back a tear. Once her stepmother and stepsisters were gone, Cinderella began to weep. Suddenly, her fairy godmother appeared at her side. There, she said. Do you wish to go to the ball, child? Cinderella nodded. Then to the ball you shall go, said her godmother. First, I need a giant pumpkin, said Cinderella's godmother, looking around. When she found one, she placed it in the middle of the road in front of the mansion. Then she tapped the pumpkin with her magic wand. In a flash, the pumpkin turned into an elegant coach. Next, the fairy godmother pointed her wand at 6 mice and one fat, gray, long whiskered rat. A ribbon of light swirled around them until 6 horses and one plump coachman magically appeared in their place. Cinderella stared at the elegant coach, the fine horses, and the proud coachman, then looked down at her own shabby clothing. But how can I go to the ball like this? She asked. In an instant, she was dressed in a golden gown with glass slippers on her feet. As the coach sped away, Cinderella's godmother warned, return before midnight, for then my magic spell will be broken. I'll remember, said Cinderella. But when she arrived at the palace and the handsome prince came out to greet her, Cinderella forgot all about her fairy godmother's warning. Once inside the ballroom, the prince asked Cinderella to dance. Everyone stared as the couple waltzed across the floor. They wondered who the beautiful princess was, for Cinderella wore a crown upon her head. Dressed in such finery, even Cinderella's stepsisters did not recognize her. Later, a feast was held in the grand dining hall. Cinderella sat with her stepsisters while the prince took his place at the head of the table. He never touched his plate of food, though, for he could not take his eyes off of Cinderella. Bang, bang, bang. The clock struck midnight. Suddenly, Cinderella remembered her fairy godmother's warning. She jumped to her feet. "Thank you for a lovely evening," she said to the prince. Then she ran from the hall and disappeared through the palace doors. "Wait!" cried the prince. But it was too late. She was gone. In her haste to leave, Cinderella had lost one glass slipper. The prince held that slipper in his hand until dawn, thinking about its lovely owner. "I must find her," thought the prince. But how? The next day, the Grand Duke traveled the land with a single glass slipper. On orders from the prince, he was to find the maiden whose foot fit the slipper, for that maiden was to become the prince's bride. When he reached Cinderella's house, both of her stepsisters tried their best to squeeze their feet into the dainty slipper, but it was no use. "May I try it on?" asked Cinderella. Her stepsisters laughed, but the Grand Duke said, "By all means. Every maiden is to try the slipper on." Smiling, Cinderella eased her slender foot into the slipper. Then she pulled the matching slipper from her apron pocket and put it on. At that moment, Cinderella's stepsister realized that Cinderella was the mysterious princess of the ball. Falling to their knees, the stepsisters begged her to forgive them for having treated her so meanly. Cinderella forgave them, for she knew that an unforgiven, evil spirit destroys all happiness. The following day, Cinderella and her prince were married. The stepsisters were in the wedding as well, each marrying one of the king's noblemen. And so it was that everyone, including Cinderella's stepmother, lived happily ever after. The end. I hope you enjoyed this fairy tale, boys and girls.